Elisabeth Åsbrink, I'm so happy to interview today. So trevligt att träffas.
Tack, underbart att vara här. Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
We are inside this initiative of Book City called Afterwards Papers, but I'm not talking to you from Milan since I moved to Sweden. I moved to your country like 3 months ago, and I'm very happy here. And actually, I would like to thank you because your book, Made in Sweden, was my Bible during my transition. So
Wow.
thank you so much because I'm learning a lot about this new country for me through your words. So, I mean, tack så jättemycket.
Well, that's fantastic to hear, of course. You know, you sit alone at a table with your laptop and you work, and it's only when the book reaches the reader it actually exists. So that's the best thing I can hear. Thank you.
Very well, very, very well. So today we're talking about after. But as far as you are concerned, actually, we're talking about present as well, because I think that exactly right now we need to conversate about like after, because the world was hit by a huge pandemic, but about present as well. So, I mean, we're starting from your book 1947, which is a very beautiful book that I'm reading, and I'm loving it so far because they sent it to me to prepare the interview. And it's true that in this book, in a way, you testify that humanity learns from its mistakes. And I think that now there is a lot to learn. So what do you think? I mean, which is going to be our after? First of all, Elisabeth.
After the pandemic, what happened? Well, this is, of course, the million-dollar question. I mean, I can only think loud. I'm not sure, but I mean, I think what the pandemic has done is that it hasn't created as many problems, but it has undressed a lot of problems. They have become, you know, the pandemic has taken away the whatever clouds were there when we thought we had good healthcare or good equality within the countries, but also between the countries. So I think we've sort of run out of a lot of illusions. The pandemic has taken a lot of illusions from us, but I mean, that's a good thing. It's only when faults are apparent, when you actually can see them and define them, that you can repair them. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing. And then I think each country will have different scenarios to handle, and
absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. Since I'm in Sweden, I have to say that I mean the post-pandemic is completely different here compared to my home. I mean, to my country, for example, Italy. So now actually a lot of things are gonna be revealed, as you're saying.
Yeah, and they have been revealed in Sweden, and we'll see what happens now, who is prepared to do something about it. But what I think when it comes to Sweden, my personal view is that one of the illusions that I lost was that I felt a lack of compassion when it comes to each and every life that has been lost. Absolutely. We yesterday passed over 15,000 dead in Sweden because of the pandemic, which maybe if you compare to European standards is somewhere in the middle, but if you compare to the Nordic, Scandinavian countries, it is far beyond what Denmark, Norway, Finland, Iceland have experienced. There's a huge difference. And I miss, in Sweden, I miss the sense of the lost life. Where is Where is the sorrow? Where do we express the loss? A lot of people have lost their parents and their grandparents and their friends, of course. And maybe Sweden, because it's a very secular country, it's also a very segregated country where people from different parts of the society don't meet a lot. They live their parallel lives.
I understand what you're saying.
And so this is what I'm a bit concerned about when it comes to Sweden particularly. Then I think the Europe as a whole has another problem to look at, and then of course we have the US, huge amount of dead, and maybe Trump is coming back. So we'll see what the future brings.
Oh, absolutely. And actually, I'm really interested in your point of view since I'm reading your book. I mean, I really need a guiding light, because for me now everything is beautiful, everything is perfect because I just moved here. So it's just, I'm like in love, I'm in my honeymoon, so I cannot see any flow. I can just see like beautiful things. But at the same time, of course I understand what you say, I hear you. Even if maybe the population is different compared to Iceland, Denmark, Norway. So of course, because I'm saying that because I'm seeing the Italian situation as well. So actually numbers, they have to be proportioned to the place as well. At the same time, I guess it was like the first pandemic that we as adults, because our generation, Elisabeth, I'm 3 years younger than you, so it means that we belong to the same generation. We never experienced war compared to our parents, for example. We never experienced anything so such a disaster. So I think that it's not easy to face a situation like this. That's why I think we have to learn something. Maybe you were saying like the fault, every country in a way has its fault. At the same time, we have a lot of responsibilities as well, don't you think so?
Exactly. Yes, I'm just a bit afraid. I'm sort of a pessimist, I'm afraid, because I think the lessons we have to learn, we don't want to learn. For instance, I think one thing that has been apparent as I know from Italian friends, for instance, but I also see it here in Sweden, is the mental health issue. That being in a lockdown and being isolated from the people who you love has had a dangerous effect on people's mental health. And this is because it's contrary to human nature to a certain extent to isolate. Even if, as a writer, I isolate quite a lot, but that's my own choice. But this, I think, is... So I think a lot of people have turned to social media as a substitution for meeting. And this is a lesson that I think we're not prepared to learn. We now have a whistleblower talking about Facebook and the back side of these algorithm devised social media. And the dark sides, they've been there for a long time, and we've known about a few of them quite a lot, but people still stay. Now it's actually proven that they cause mental health issues, and they cause polarization. But I don't think we're prepared to learn that lesson, I'm afraid, because, well, we've gotten used to it. So there's a lot of things we can do, and I mean, we're in an interesting phase in the world as well, because as I write in the book 1947, it's a time when a lot of people all over the society, on all levels, they really want to make sure that this will never happen again.
Again, absolutely.
Yeah. And they create sort of new moral standard and a new foundation for human existence. And this we still have. We still benefit from it. It's values and moral that we still take for granted. And we're at a brilliant place at the moment after a crisis to actually take care of these values. It's the question of the human, each and every human's individual rights. There's a lot of other things that are connected to solidarity and individuality and freedom, the liberal freedom that became mainstream after the war. So now when we're starting to look at our societies and question what has been working and what has not been working, we also have a very good opportunity of strengthening all these things that were created in 1947.
Certo. Precis.
Precis. Bra.
But you know, Elisabeth, the truth is, we need to, how can I say, to enhance our memory, because people, they tend to forget.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't forget, because what we're having now, it's because people before us, they were struggling for that.
Yeah.
They died for that. So, I mean, it's a conversation on different levels, because, for example, I think I'm still having a kind of post-trauma disorder, because I would have never thought that I could experiment something like that, like get stuck in an apartment with my son and without going out. Since I live like in a Western country, in Italy, in Milan, downtown, I would have never thought anything like that. So I'm still experimenting something that a lot of refugees, especially here in Sweden, they know. Of course, on a different level, because I was in a beautiful apartment downtown. Thank God I wasn't like in a very critical place. But still, it's not human that you cannot go out and like be scared about other people, because we need the communion, we need to be close, as Aristotle used to say, because I mean, as human being, we need to be close to other human beings. So it's interesting what you're saying, because actually there are a lot of different levels we should talk about.
Yeah, there are, but I mean, thinking what we can learn from the pandemic is, of course, that we have experienced things that we would never experience during a good period in time, and but we've also seen a lot of limits of the society, especially the structures of solidarity or healthcare or the state's capacity to be there for its citizens. And what I've found shocking is the reaction in a lot of countries of a kind of nationalism.
I totally agree with you. This is the thing which actually worries me the most.
Well, I think it can be handled. I mean, we've seen it, and a lot of people have been shocked and appalled, because it's been more than nationalism; it's been chauvinism, and as the good things with this is that it's come out in the open, and as soon as something's in the open, you can discuss it, or you can work against it, and you can deal with it. So things that are hidden or below the surface are always much more difficult to approach. So I choose to see the good things still in this. And but now we know more. After the pandemic, we know more about how to get Europe the way we want it. And I'm quite optimistic about that. Although there are a lot of things that worry me as well, but there we are. A lot of things that we see now, for instance, Hungary and Poland's way of wanting to get out of the European community, that's actually not surprising at all, because as I also write in 1947, what started then was the division of Europe, because Europe was split up after the Second World War between the victorious powers, and the part that Russia or Soviet took, these are parts that of Europe that haven't had a democratic system as long as the rest, and so they're very young democracies. And it's not surprising that they have a tendency to go in another undemocratic direction, which we are seeing now. So it's all the present is very much connected with what has happened. And I think often my writing, sometimes I feel like a seamstress, someone who sews. And I sew the past. I try to sew it, connect it with the present, because we so often think that it's a clear cut between yesterday and today, but we are still affected.
Absolutely.
By what happened then. 1947 it's not even a human life ago, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very beautiful what you're saying concerning the sewing, because I was seeing this beautiful video of yours where you were talking about embroideries.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I
Yeah.
love it, because I was looking for something in English.
Okay, right.
And
Yeah.
I really like it. And I was thinking how incredible it is that you found that kind of, let's say, painting, but
Yeah, it's a
like
cross stitching. Yeah, just to explain to the audience, I was on a walk in Copenhagen one Sunday, and there is a place where they have a flea market, but there was only one table there this Sunday.
Kind of loppies, but just a small loppies.
Exactly, loppis, right. And when I was passing by this table, I saw a thing standing like a painting, but it was an embroidery, standing on the street, and it had the word Hitler in embroidered. So I reacted very strongly, and then I saw it. There was also SS, and then there was torture. This is strange to embroider these things. So I immediately looked closer, and I bought this embroidery, and it turned out to be something quite fantastic. It's quite big, and it's a story about the Danish occupation, about the Nazis taking Denmark and what they did there. So half the side is about the bad things, and the other half is about the resistant movement and the heroes and the people and the songs they were singing. So it's actually the whole story about Denmark in the war. And I just happened to find it, and it's an amazing piece of women's work. It must have taken months to do this embroidery, but it's probably also quite therapeutic for, you go through the trauma. So maybe, actually, speaking of the pandemic, we should see maybe a lot of pandemic related embroidery soon. I hope so.
Very well. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people still enjoy embroidering, but no, but they're very, that's kind of a pity. But actually it really moved me, because I wrote a book about resilience, and I consider that is just only when that's why you're saying therapeutic. It really resonates, because actually it's just when you acknowledge the trauma that you can transform it.
Exactly.
So it really moved me that to see that, like in the embroidery, in that kind of paintings, there were two sides. So it's like yin and yang. And in the Eastern tradition, it's like, it's the black and the white, is the light and the dark. So one side is the dark, one side is the light, but only acknowledging the dark that we can see the light. And I'm saying this because I think that should be that should be what we have to do. Every single human right now has to acknowledge what went wrong in order not to repeat that again. Because as you were saying, 1947 actually is yesterday. It's not like 2000 years ago.
No. It's very much part of our present. And I mean, that's why I wrote the book, because I discovered that so many things that we deal with today actually took form or started in 1947. It was an amazing, thing I just experienced when I was reading the papers. It was an accident that I discovered this year, and I thought that someone else have already written about it, but no one had. So I mean, we have the love story that Simone de Beauvoir experiences, but that also has a kind of political and feministic aftermath that we still deal with. And we have Christian Dior, the designer, who you can think, oh well, he made his debut that year. That's popular culture, but actually, it's all connected into
Absolutely.
politics and things that we still also need to deal with. And then we have jihadism, the way we know it. It took form that year. We have, of course, the Israel-Palestine pain of this conflict still working at us every day. And a lot of interesting things in music and art and literature take place in 1947 that we still benefit from. So yeah, it's about seeing where are we and how did we get here. And that's also why I wrote the book about Sweden that you started to talk about, because I'm born here, but as I have two parents that are immigrants, my mother came from London and my father came from Budapest. And so I sort of inherited the look on Sweden from a foreign perspective. And I never felt Swedish. And I also got the question when I was growing up, because I'm so tall and blonde. No, but I always got the question, where do you come from? And I said, well, I'm born in Gothenburg. Yeah, but really? So it was like I really had to come from somewhere else. And that's also how I felt. So I wanted to find out, well, here I am in Sweden. How did it become like this? And who am I in this? So all these essays, they are about things that I love. I love Astrid Lindgren. I love ABBA. I love a lot of things. And I love, in a sense, the welfare state. It has given me a lot of freedom as a woman, as a mother, as a girl, when I was a girl, but also as an individual. But it has also costs. There are a lot of costs connected to the welfare state as it's organized here. And all these things I really wanted to take a closer look into.
And it's beautiful because I think maybe this is your journalistic soul, because I understand there is like a kind of the dark side. In fact, the first question I learned to say in Swedish är varifrån kommer du? Because living in Malmo, I'm meeting so many people coming from all over the world, and every time I'm queuing as Skatteverket.
Okay.
So I'm starting all the let's say all the procedures for my application, stuff like this. This från kommer du?
Where do you come from? Yeah.
Sadly, where do you come from? But at the same time, for me, it's beautiful because it's really multicultural. Paradoxically, Elisabeth, I mean, Milan is not like this because we don't deal in daily life with people coming from a lot of places. Here you deal every single day. And I'm learning my Swedish through the words of people coming from Kosovo, Afghanistan, And it's really interesting because, I mean, this
Well,
gives.
I'm sorry. Well, I think this is Malmö. This is specific for this town to a great extent. Malmö is also quite segregated because you have parts of Malmö that there are no immigrants almost at all. But Stockholm or other cities, they are quite, you can walk through parts where you don't meet a lot of immigrants, maybe children to immigrants or grandchildren to immigrants, but not the immigrants themselves. So I would say that Sweden is more segregated than Malmö is, which is the charm of Malmö, but also, of course, sometimes difficult.
It is. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is with this question, where do you come from? It's not a bad question. But it's also it's about the context, because what I experienced is that what I learned when I was writing about Sweden is that the way of thinking about we and them, us and them, where do we draw the line of
like the Pink Floyd song, Us and Them?
Yeah. and where this is something that every country has, a line between us and them. And where does the country draw this line, and why? And what I realized very strongly when I wrote this book about Sweden is that Sweden has this way of, when it comes to citizens and who is allowed to be a Swedish citizen, as I told you, my father is Hungarian and my mother is British. They don't agree on a lot of things, but they agree on one thing. They made me in a little Swedish town in close to Gothenburg. So I was made there, and then I was born in Gothenburg. So I'm made in Sweden. But when I am born, I'm actually an Hungarian citizen, because the Swedish citizenship laws, they are based on ethnicity. They were based on my father's nationality. And when he became a Swedish national, I became a Swedish national. But when I was born, I was actually Hungarian. And
although you were born here.
Yes, and I was even made here in Sweden.
Conceived.
Yeah. So yeah. This is a state which draws the line between us and them from an ethnic point of view. And then we go to, classical immigrant countries like the US or Canada or even France nowadays. They have another principle when it comes to drawing this line, because they say that whoever is born within the country becomes a citizen. It doesn't matter where you come from or where your parents come from. If you're born there, if you're born in the US, you're American. So it's actually a way of, you can describe it as the difference between ethnos and demos, having an ethnic base of division or a democratic base for the division. And I would love to see, for instance, Sweden change this principle, because Sweden
is still like this.
Yes, well, it's been modified, but the basic principle is still this. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is something very European, to think in terms of ethnicity, the ethnic line, using that to divide people. And I would so much more want to put that line between who believes in this state's structure and who is, like they do in the US, they pledge allegiance to the state, to the structure, not to the homogeneity of the ethnic core, because there isn't any ethnic core in the US. And then Trump would not agree with me, but I'm happy with that.
Elisabeth, our time, I mean, it's fantastic because we have been talking about all those interesting topics, and it's already half an hour. It's incredible how the time flies. But there's just one last question that I would like to, since we're talking about after, but with you, we're talking about present as well. As humanity, where do you think that we're heading to?
My goodness.
In 2 words, which I know, but I mean, this is a question that we all should ask, because actually I think we're heading to a different place. But where is that place? I'm really questioning this in this moment of my life.
Well, I think, what can I say? It's such a big question. Every answer becomes a cliche.
I know.
But I do really believe in the young people. We have a lot of young people. Greta Thunberg is the most famous one right now, but there's a lot of young people being politically active or active in other ways. And I really want to give them a huge, grateful thank you, because they are making the future brighter. That's my answer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mille grazie.
And I hope one day we'll have the chance to meet. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. You too.
Good luck. And I mean, we're close, so I'm sure that one day the universe will make us meeting.
Thank you.
You take care.
You take care too. Bye.